watched. Sometimes I feel almost like whatever is here doesn't want me here.
Ventura, California, the Olivas Adobe, one of the region's wealthiest estates. This ranch was a center of social and political activity until the patriarch of the family, Raimundo Olivas, died. Greed ripped the family apart, forcing his bride to live the rest of her days here in poverty, alone. Now the adobe is a museum open to the public. The Olivas family is long gone, but their spirit still lingers.
We started to get reports of a woman in black being seen inside the house.
Wonderful, strong jaw, defined face. It's a strong, powerful, attractive face.
And they thought it was someone who had broken in. So they would call the police. In fact, they called the police 5 or 6 times. And they would come inside the building. No one here.
How do you explain a figure like that? It's almost as if I had a black mantilla on and it covered me almost completely. I did a double take, stepped back and looked in the room. Whatever it was gone.
Who or what is the woman in black? Could she be the desperate widow of Raimundo Olivas? Or is it something else?
Many historic sites are haunted. And I think there's a really logical reason why. They are historic sites because lots of passionate, violent, important things happened within those walls.
Most people would avoid visiting places with terrifying pasts. But for some, the thrill of seeing a ghost is what draws them to these places. A ruined castle standing above the mist-shrouded moors of southern England. It might be the kind of place you would expect to be haunted, if you believed in ghosts.
The whole thing really about this place is amazing, the ghosts that occur here.
You had a strange feeling there was something wrong. It just started getting pretty weird.
You learn to control your imagination, because at Berry Pomeroy, if you let your imagination run away with you, you could be a raving lunatic.
Berry Pomeroy Castle has been abandoned for over 300 years. Venturing to this remote location, visitors are surrounded by eroding buildings, forgotten cemeteries, crumbling parapets, and something else.
It's just brooding and evil. The evil is there in the atmosphere.
Tony Cornell is one of England's most respected paranormal investigators. He's here at Berry Pomeroy to conduct the first comprehensive investigation of the castle.
In my view, it's one of the most interesting cases I think I've come across. Basically because so many people have seen things and felt things. You don't get that in all hauntings.
Cornell meets up with historian Derek Seymour, an expert on the castle and its dark secrets.
The best-known ghost here is the White Lady. And the White Lady is, of course, the unfortunate Lady Margaret, who is seen to walk at the top of the stairs in that tower, down in the dungeon. She is really quite frequently seen.
Seymour believes that this White Lady is the ghost of Lady Margaret Pomeroy, who died of starvation imprisoned in this dungeon. Her sister locked her up after discovering they were both in love with the same man. Those brave enough to enter the dungeon have felt her ghostly presence.
When we first went down the stairs into the chamber, it was dark, it was damp, and it wasn't a nice place to be. But then this evil presence, you could sense it was evil. I don't know how to describe it any other way, really. And then I heard the footsteps, very quick, very light. And the closer she got, the more panic-stricken I felt. I just wanted to get out of the place and not come back.
In his investigation, Seymour interviewed Jack Hazard, who used to work at the ruins as a master stonemason. Hazard not only had a ghostly encounter here, he photographed it.
It started to rain, and the wind started to blow. And I thought there was something happening unusual. So I got the disc camera out, and I took 5 or 6 shots. And on 5 of the prints, white shapes came out. Whatever they were, I've no idea, but it was a most unusual Sunday morning.
There have also been sightings of a blue lady at the castle. According to some, she is the spirit of a young maiden who was raped by her father, a prominent Norman lord. When she gave birth to his child, she killed it rather than live with the shame.
And this unfortunate child was strangled. Now, she's quite frequently seen. She's very evil, and people don't like the sight of her at all.
Another entity has also been identified by psychic investigator Bob Dolby.
I was conducting an investigation expecting nothing at all. I was about to leave when just by the rampart walls and the stairs leading down, I saw this huge black cloud. And to me, it seemed probably the hugest and blackest, deepest thing I'd ever seen.
Dolby quickly fled the castle, but the menacing force followed him to his house. It later revealed itself to his wife.
I actually had the experience of somebody sitting on the back of my legs while I was lying on the bed, thinking it was Bob messing about. I told him to get off, turned around, and it was actually a little girl.
Well, they both came to see me the next afternoon. They were so terrified. And I can tell you that they were frozen with shock.
Everyone who visits Barry Pomeroy Castle seems to experience something unexplainable.
To me, this is probably, I go farther and say it is, the most haunted castle in England.
There is something pretty potent here. There's a very evil force. And if ever you encounter it on going to Barry Pomeroy, get out quick.
Next up, more scariest places on Earth. A Texas mansion with a history soaked in blood.
Every step I took, there was another step behind me. I feel a lot of anger and a lot of negative violence. I needed to get out and get out now.
The Civil War plantation haunted by a war widow.
She's here. She's just a part of Avenel. It's very possible that he may have died from a broken heart.
Love is a very powerful emotion, and it can withstand all time.
The Jesuit monastery with a dark secret.
I saw somebody fall out of this window, and when I saw it, my heart just jumped.
People who commit real, genuine suicides do tend to bring on hauntings.
Perhaps he's trying to tell us something about how he was tormented in his life.
A psychic takes an unnerving tour of the most infamous prison in the world.
I'm feeling that if I stay here much longer, I'll die.
And we'll give you our ultimate update with our UnX report. Stay tuned for more on Unexplained Mysteries. Unexplained Mysteries, scariest places on Earth. From the moors of England to the parched plains of Texas, hauntings can occur in every corner of the world. San Antonio, home of the Alamo, and Victoria's Black Swan Inn, a serene getaway spot for newlyweds. But would it be so popular if they knew the truth about this inn? The murders, the suicides, and the ghosts.
I wasn't aware that there were spirits when I first came to the property, but shortly thereafter, I was very much aware of everything that was going on here. From voices to doors opening and closing and footsteps.
Joanne Rivera not only runs the Black Swan, she lives here. She's witnessed things she can't explain.
The dolls would all be rearranged, and it was if there were children that had been in there playing. The lights would turn off and on. It sometimes sounds like the piano, like this piano is playing all by itself.
Joanne isn't alone. Her daughter Meredith also ran into something unusual in the south wing of the inn.
The one time I went down there by myself, the only time, every step I took, there was another step behind me. I came running back to my mom because I was real uncomfortable. The south wing harbors a lot of animosity, a lot of anger. I feel a lot of anger and a lot of negative violence. There was a time when I first came here that I was working in one of the closets in the south wing, and I got the feeling that I was being watched from the attic. I felt very threatened that I needed to get out and get out now.
Soon, Joanne came face to face with the entity that seemed to be stalking her.
All of a sudden, the bedroom lights came on, and there was a man standing at the foot of my bed with his hands on his hips. At first, I thought, well, it was a dream. You know, you were just imagining things. But then this went on every night for a good week. At about the same time, this man would come to the room.
Meredith also had her own close encounter with this male spirit.
I was laying in bed, and it was lightning, so there was lots of shadows, but a couple of times I looked, and I saw an old, wrinkly-faced man. And not only, I mean, he was looking in the window at me. And the first time I saw it, I was scared, but I wasn't sure if it was really there or not. But I looked again, and he was there each time, just looking. I was so frightened because his face was there clearly. And there was no balcony, there's no steps, there's no tree, there's no way he could hold himself there. So finally, she moved out of the room. And actually, until today, no one has ever slept in that room again.
And near this inn's famous gazebo lurks something else.
We have a young woman who likes that area. It's very comforting. It's very romantic, so maybe she's just drawn to that area.
Joanne was intrigued with this female spirit and wanted to know who she was. She contacted local historian Dosia Williams, who told her that the house was once owned by Park Street, a prominent San Antonio lawyer. Street lived here back in the 1950s with his young wife, Jolene.
Jolene Wood Street died very, very young of cancer. She was in her 30s. She did have one youngster at the time of her death. But she was a very beautiful woman, had always been very, very lovely. And I understand she is probably one of the entities or spirits that still closely watches over the house, because she was very possessive of it when she lived here and very protective of it and loved it very much.
Park and Jolene had everything: money, fame, love. But shortly after his wife's tragic death, Park decided to take his own life.
I take for granted the story that was in the Express News and on the police blotters, that from a 4-poster bed with a teaster, he is supposed to have hung himself. Of course, it's also said that perhaps he didn't hang himself, that he was murdered.
This real-life mystery may hold the key to the haunting.
Part of the reason that I'm here and that the energies and the spirits that are putting up with me is that I'm here to resolve some of their issues. And maybe that's Park's death.
To help solve this mystery, Joanne contacted psychic Peter James. After his initial survey of the inn, Peter comes to a shocking conclusion about Park Street's death.
This person died very, very tragically. I think it was, his life was taken at the hand of another, I think.
Was Park Street really murdered?
In the many years that I've investigated hauntings, there's no doubt in my mind that the nature of the circumstances as to how Parks died was in fact murder, and I would wager all of my psychic ability on that fact. There was a blow to the head or something to the head. There was an injury to the head is what I'm feeling.
Peter was now ready to meet with Joanne and delve deeper into this mystery. Why was Park Street murdered, and who was responsible?
So far, I find that there's at least 4, maybe 6 entities, ghosts here. Was the name Wood have any spirit?
Wood, that's the Jolene Woods.
That's the name?
Yes. When Peter said the word wood, it was a very good feeling. It's nice to know that Jolene is here and that other people can sense her and feel her presence here, too.
I also get a sense like I'm being watched through a window. What about an older gentleman?
Peter noticed that there was a man that used to stare in the bedroom. There's 2 men upstairs, I think. One is the old man that looks through the windows that my daughter experienced, and also the man that comes into my bedroom and would stand at the foot of the bed.
Peter leads Joanne to the south wing of the house.
This hallway is very active.
I really hate this hallway.
He is drawn to the closet that earlier terrified Joanne.
Was there a death here less than 20 years ago?
Yes. When Peter talked about the closet that I really don't like to go into and feel very uncomfortable about, he acknowledged that there was a lot of energy there.
This is very active. Now, did anyone ever tell you, I'm receiving it vibrationally, is there some kind of a treasure here?
There's supposed to be. I haven't found it.
there is a very aggressive spirit there, and I think he's trying. I think there are two that are still battling over a buried treasure.
Was this treasure the cause of the bloody crime?
There was something in that closet that they were after. I believe that he may have come home unexpectedly. I have a sense that there were two men that were involved with whatever was in that closet.
I think the treasure is in the south wing of the house somewhere, and I think the ghost that's back there is trying to keep Joanne from finding this buried treasure.
I think that when I find that treasure, that will open the door to Park's death.
Coming up on Unexplained Mysteries, Scariest Places on Earth. The southern plantation where a bloody battle tore two lovers apart.
There's crying, a lot of crying.
It's very possible that he may have died from a broken heart. She's here. She's just a part of Avenel.
The Seattle hotel where guests check in to check out the ghosts.
People want to be scared.
People commonly come from all around to see the ghosts.
And a prison where tortured souls can't escape.
There is an energy here unlike any other that I've ever experienced.
Sounds of the cell door closing, somebody appearing and then disappearing.
And we'll unlock the mystery of these historic haunts in our Onyx report. Coming up on Unexplained Mysteries.
Is the power to heal just a hoax?
Bone started to grow where they said it couldn't grow.
The doctors who witnessed the impossible.
When I saw him take his first steps, I passed out.
And the celebrities who've experienced the phenomenon.
After one session with him, I was healed.
On the next Unexplained Mysteries, the signs are everywhere.
Unexplained Mysteries, Scariest Places on Earth.
There is someone here, and I feel like whoever she is, she means no harm.
Avenel is a perfectly preserved piece of Southern history. Confederate soldiers marched by these doors on the way to war. And then there was the beautiful lady left behind.
She's here. She's just a part of Avenel.
The house was built in 1836 in Bedford, Virginia by William Burrell. In its finer days, it was the centerpiece of social, cultural, and political life in Bedford. But when Burrell died and left Avenel to his wife Frances, hardship fell on the plantation.
She had 4 daughters. She had 50 servants plus. Everyone, of course, had their own lives to live. Everyone on occasion would be sick, hungry, giving birth. She had a lot to take care of.
The house is now a bed and breakfast. But what unwary guests don't expect is the unsettling sight of empty chairs rocking and beds mysteriously being turned down by themselves. This has been going on for years at Avenel.
Now you're going to ask me if I believe in ghosts. Yes, I believe in them because I've seen one. I saw the white lady.
Peggy grew up at Avenel. For her and her family, sightings of the White Lady were a normal part of life here.
She came on up that where the street is now. And when she got over across the street there was a big oak tree. She disappeared. And my mother turned and said, "Did any of you see what I've just seen?" Well, several of us said yes. Well, I always thought it was Miss Burrell just looking after the place.
Is the White Lady of Avenel Frances Burrell? Many have their doubts. To find out, psychic Deborah Caravelli is called in.
There definitely is a presence here. I think that there's a little bit of sadness, too, because of all of the hardships and the difficulties that they went through. But I definitely feel that there's that particular feeling here.
Deborah seems to make contact with an entity in this bedroom. But it's not Frances, who everyone knew as Old Miss.
There's a woman's face. And there's crying, a lot of crying. I feel it's Van. I do not think it's Old Miss. She wants to get it back, but she knows it won't be in the same way. The family and the closeness and all a part of life. It was home. It was happy, even though there was some sorrow.
Fan was the nickname of William and Frances's daughter, Fanny.
She was close to everyone, and I think she just must have had a wonderful personality that anyone could love.
She was known as the Flower of Avenel, and every man who met her tried to win the young woman's heart. But Fanny was engaged to her childhood sweetheart, James Breckenridge.
They got back together when they got a little older and just found out they had a lot in common, and just fell very deeply in love.
When the Civil War started and James was called to duty, the two were married. A few days after the wedding, James went off to battle. Fanny visited her husband a few months later when he was on leave. It would be the last time they would see each other.
Apparently she contracted typhoid, came back to Avenel, and in August 1862, just months after she had married Captain Breckenridge, she died.
When he received the news of his wife's death, James made a decision.
Captain Breckenridge, rather than to come back to a fallen country, South had lost, and his bride had died, put himself before enemy fire and was killed.
A tombstone in Bedford is inscribed with the names of Fanny and James. But James's body was never found. Fanny lies in this crypt alone. Deborah believes that Fanny is the White Lady, forever doomed to wander Avenel in her wedding dress, waiting for her husband to return.
Love is a very powerful emotion, and it can withstand all time.
Coming up on Unexplained Mysteries, a psychic witnesses the violent death of a Jesuit priest.
I see a body swinging from a rope.
A photographer on a mission.
We came to the castle today to try to capture ghosts.
An anguished spirit with a message.
So perhaps he's trying to tell us how he was tormented in his life.
And one of the most terrifying places in America.
Sounds of the cell door closing, somebody appearing and then disappearing.
At least 100 ghosts here, 100 entities that walk these corridors.
And you'll get the climactic update with our UNX report, coming up on Unexplained Mysteries. Unexplained Mysteries, scariest places on Earth.
People commonly come from all around to see the ghosts, especially on equinoxes and Halloween night.
The Manresa Castle stands just as it did when it was first built in 1892. Located near Puget Sound in Washington, 2 tragic suicides have been committed on the 3rd floor of this hotel. In 1921, a woman leapt to her death from the window of room 306. Further down the hall, in the turret room, a Jesuit priest hung himself when the castle was being used as a monastery.
People who commit real, genuine suicides do tend to bring on hauntings or haunt a place where they met their demise by their own hands.
While the thought of spending a vacation in a hotel filled with tormented spirits doesn't appeal to everyone, many visitors come to the Manresa hoping to see a ghost. Rob Freeman and Sue Johnston regularly bring their children and their friends to the infamous turret room for seances.
Definitely the darkest feeling that comes out is this Jesuit priest. We decided to ask him for page numbers in the Bible because that's easy to get through the Ouija board. There's a row of numbers there. And sure enough, he revealed to us a page number. And it's something that went along with the idea that he was perhaps evil or perverted in his life, and this is what brought him to the point of suicide. And we found a passage here in Psalm 101. A perverse nature shall be absent from me. I will not entertain.
Evil I will silence him who secretly slanders his neighbor. I will not tolerate one who is conceited and
arrogant. So perhaps he's trying to tell us something about himself and something about his life and how he was tormented in his life, and now in death that he feels he's done penitence.
People want to be scared. People want to be scared. That's why we're here. That's why we come, to experience what others have written about in these diaries that are in the rooms.
This journal is a record of the ghostly encounters which have occurred in this room over the years.
I've seen Kate, and I'm pretty sure that she exists. You could make out a face in the shadow.
You're frozen, and just wait for morning to come so you can share your experiences. You don't dare get up. You're too afraid to get up.
They're referring to the spirit of a woman who committed suicide here by jumping out her window. To better understand why these two spirits are here, the hotel contacted psychic Rhonda Griffin. Without being told any details of the hotel's history, Rhonda is led to room 302.
Someone's crying. Someone's crying here. Someone's waiting. Someone's waiting here. Did she jump out this window? The picture I just saw, I saw somebody fall out of a window. And when I saw it, my heart just jumped.
Before she can recover from her encounter with Kate, Rhonda feels another presence. It draws her toward the turret room.
I'm feeling an energy vortex coming right down through the center of this. Now, a lot of times the way things are built, they'll help to amplify particular energies. Now, most places are built on what's called ley lines, okay? And it's a concentration of energy. Where these ley lines cross is where energy vortexes are created.
Rhonda senses that this energy vortex is centered in the upstairs attic. She makes her way deeper into the hotel.
It feels like right about here, and I'm like walking through like a time warp, and it feels like I'm going back to another time that this place was very different. The structure was very different. It was used, it didn't have a family. I don't feel a family. Oh, I don't feel a family.
Rhonda appears to have crossed into a time when the hotel was used as a Jesuit monastery.
I'm watching a man sitting on the floor. He's isolated, he's alone, he's holy. I see him. He's almost like, he's seated, and he would come up here. God. God. Oh, God. It's not rage, it's despair. It's a feeling of hopelessness, helplessness. He's very, he's a religious person. I see a body swinging. I see a body swinging from a rope.
Rhonda then received a message from the damned priest, a page from the Bible, the same page that Rod and Sue received on their Ouija board, Psalm 101, the Psalm of David.
Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forgive not all his benefits. He forgives all your iniquities, who heals all your diseases, who redeems your life from the grave, who crowns you with loving kindness and
You watch someone do this, and you have to think in the back of your mind, well, this could be some kind of a put-on type of deal. But then she came up with a couple things tonight that were unexplainable. And how'd she come up with the page number in the Bible? I can't explain that. No one else can either. It just happened.
Whatever haunts this castle continues to draw in tourists from all around the world, each hoping to come away with their own ghost story to tell. Next on Unexplained Mysteries, we'll take you on a tour of one of the most brutal places in America.
Men were kept chained down there.
I'm feeling that if I stay here much longer, that I'll die.
The killer who still lurks these corridors.
Joseph Fretzer.
He was one of the toughest of the bunch.
Joseph is keeping me captive here. Joseph is placing me here against my will.
And the psychic encounter that brought the suffering back to life.
There could not be any crime in the world worth the punishment that I feel this entity endured.
And finally, we'll unlock the secret of these cursed sites in our On-X report on Unexplained Mysteries. Unexplained Mysteries, scariest places on Earth.
Sounds of a cell door closing, somebody appearing and then disappearing. Those type of things would really send chills up your spine.
The cold, shark-infested waters of San Francisco Bay. At its center, Alcatraz, the Rock. As a military prison, Alcatraz was known as the most brutal place to serve time. Prisoners were chained to the walls, beaten, and forced to do back-breaking labor.
Alcatraz boomed, and by 1909, the cell house that dominates the top of the island had been built for the incarceration of military prisoners.
By the 1930s, Alcatraz was turned into a federal penitentiary to house gangsters. For the next 30 years, this was the final stop for criminals who were too violent and dangerous for the normal prison system. In 1963, the prison was shut down. 10 years later, it was reopened as a tourist attraction. But some say the spirits of the men who endured the brutality of the Rock are still here.
When you walk in, it's really dark and it's very cold in there, and I got the chills and I had to leave. I didn't like it at all.
Normally I don't believe in ghosts, but in a place like that where there have been so many violent deaths and the kind of people that were there, you know, it's quite possible.
The official policy about ghosts on Alcatraz is we would say that, in effect, well, maybe things had happened, maybe they didn't. It's just something that it wasn't officially sanctioned.
To determine whether or not Alcatraz is haunted, psychic Peter James agreed to spend the night on this desolate island. Although he has been investigating haunted sites for years, nothing had prepared him for what he was about to encounter.
Alcatraz was a place that drove men mad. Military prison.
I like it.
They're in pain, and I'm in pain, and there's blood here.
They couldn't break out of the prison.
There's trouble on the rock.
The voices of 100 tortured souls echo in Peter's brain.
I know little or nothing about Alcatraz other than what I learned here during the past 2 days that I've been here. And my feelings are strongly that there is an energy here unlike any other that I've ever experienced.
Ex-guard and Alcatraz historian Al Bloomquist agreed to review Peter's psychic impressions for accuracy. One episode brought back chilling memories.
And I feel like I'm being trapped here in this particular area.
We were told there's trouble on the rock.
On May the 2nd, 1946, 6 inmates with other lesser accomplices decided to blast their way out of the prison.
I feel like I'm being thrown into this cell, and I'm being thrown into that cell.
During that time, they gathered up 9 officers, put them inside of cells to be used as hostages.
I am a person of authority. I feel like I should be on the other side of this, of the bars, but I'm here against my will. I am here by, I am placed here by force, and at the point of the gun, there's that Joseph is involved here.
Joseph Kretzer, he was one of the toughest of the bunch. He was really a mean dog.
Joseph is keeping me captive here. Joseph is placing me here against my will.
Joe Kretzer took the .45 automatic and started shooting these officers, innocent officers inside the cell.
I'm sensing that I, Bill, or William, lost his life here.
William Miller later died in the hospital in San Francisco. Other officers were very seriously wounded.
The name starts with a C.
Cecil Corwin had his lower jaw torn away.
It's a wonder they weren't all killed in the spot, because they were in there in massive humanity, and here they've been firing into that cell. You could tell what kind of a person this Kretzer really was by when he had to do a thing like that.
When the military arrived to put down the uprising, Kretzer and the other inmates fled to a utility corridor in C Block. Peter follows the psychic trail of the doomed prisoners.
Joseph? I'm coming through. Marty, Mark. Give me a better verification of a name. Marvin, is that Marvin?
Marvin Hubbard died in the utility corridor of C Block.
Oh, there's I am responding to a sensation here, and I feel like I'm losing consciousness. And what Joseph is telling me is that he's been shot.
Joseph Dutch Kretzer died in the utility corridor of C Block.
Oh, it's cold, but it's freezing back here. There's a cold spot here. Oh, yes, hello? There is the third soul here with the letter B.
Bernard Paul Coy died in the utility corridor of C Block.
Listen, they're moaning. The pain is so intense. They're like little boys back here. They're moaning, almost asking for the guidance of their parents right now.
Peter James leaves Alcatraz with a new appreciation for the horror that went on here. Decades of violence, death, and despair, forever imprinted in the walls of this cold, dark prison.
There are at least 100 ghosts here, 100 entities that walk these corridors, looking for a way out, looking for that life force that they seem to have lost somewhere, tragically.
I can't really say that I'm a believer myself, but like many people, I guess, there are some things that just simply are unexplained.
Next, the UNX Report. We'll examine the evidence and answer the questions. Why are these the scariest places on Earth? Mysteries left unsolved? Murders left unpunished? Lovers torn apart by tragedy? Or is it something else that we don't yet understand? We'll bring it all together next with our UNX Report when Unexplained Mysteries returns. For the UNX Report. For some, these sites are a chance to get in touch with the past. But as we've seen, sometimes the past is still alive within the walls of these notorious haunts.
Feeling's always there in the atmosphere.
Sometimes I really feel as if I'm being watched.
There definitely is a presence here.
To discover why the ghosts of the past still wander these famous sites, we need to open up our minds to the paranormal possibilities.
I never believed in ghosts, and then when I moved in here, I saw it for myself, and I believed it.
Here I come out here, a non-believer, quite frankly. And then it happens to me?
If you let your imagination run away with you, you could be a raving lunatic.
Psychics seem to offer a window into this past.
My stance in seeing this man was this was not a suicide. That someone murdered this man.
I see a body swinging from a rope.
Joseph is keeping me captive here. Joseph is placing me here against my will.
Experts who have visited these sites and experienced the horror have their own theories.
Many historic sites are haunted because lots of passionate, violent, important things happened within those walls.
We are seeing not what's actually occurring at the time, but what did occur many, many, many times in the past.
We've heard from the terrified witnesses.
I did a double take, stepped back and looked in the room. Whatever it was gone.
I just wanted to get out of the place and not come back.
I feel a lot of anger and a lot of negative violence.
And the people who are drawn to these places of torment and sorrow.
We came to the castle today to try to capture ghosts.
People commonly come from all around to see the ghosts.
People want to be scared. That's why we're here.
One thing that everyone agrees on is that in places like Barry Pomeroy Castle, the Black Swan Inn, and Alcatraz, the past is still very much alive. But no one is sure what exactly that past is trying to tell us. That is why these infamous haunts must remain an unexplained mystery.